right down to the end without having to have him use his legs.
All right, couple of injuries tonight, so let's check in with our sports doctor, Dr. Bruce Grossinger, who joins us live via remote in Philadelphia, PA. Dr. Bruce, thanks for hanging out with us. Couple of injuries you need to talk about. One, the biggest one, of course, CJ Gardner Johnson, which looked like a rib situation. What did you see there, and what do you think is the prognosis?
Yeah, I think it's I was in touch with John McMullen about that, and it looked like a fracture. I mean, he really was in a lot of pain, more so than just a rib strain. And what usually happens is the x-rays are often inconclusive, and ironically, Aaron Rodgers has the same thing. It was originally delineated as an oblique strain, but I fear a fracture, and the MRI will likely confirm it tomorrow. And then the timeout for CJ would be typically 2 to 4 weeks. It all had to do with pain control. He'd be resting. Eventually, he would be a candidate for some injections of the chondral portions of the ribs. And we just don't know until we see. Also, he really took a great shot. It was unclear to me whether it was a shoulder and a rib, but you could also injure more than one rib. And if it's a multiple rib injury, that could be a greater delayed return to play.
Hey, Doc, in your opinion, when you saw CJ, obviously he was in a lot of pain, and you look at the labored breathing, the short breath, is that a dead giveaway a lot of times that is something to do with the ribs or possibly even the lungs?
Yeah, and you allude to the fact that you have to worry about dropping a lung, either a pneumothorax, which is air within the thorax, or a hemothorax. So when you see somebody who has trouble breathing, it's more ominous for a fracture, D-Gun. And you also, one of the most important parts of the x-ray is you'll see if there's blood or air density. The ribs could actually fracture the lining of the thorax, and that would require a chest tube. That would require hospitalization. So you're very astute at looking at those aspects.
I'm curious, Doc, because I know, I've had rib injuries before. There's a difference between breaking one and there's a difference between the actual tearing of the rib away from the cartilage, which can oftentimes be more painful than the actual breaking of the ribs. What's the prognosis, if he has one or the other or both?
Yeah, it's true. The cartilage is called the chondral portion. So when we get to the sternum, you're absolutely right with the anatomy. It's cartilage like your nose, and then it becomes a bone. And a lot of the most vascular areas are next to the sternum, Seth. And so a lot of times, on average, when there's a fracture at American football players, 1 to 2 weeks, and oftentimes the doctor can inject that area. Now, in medicine, a lot of times, you always think about injecting somebody and have them getting hurt, but as long as the fracture is non-displaced, that is, it remains intact, it's all about pain control. And I don't know back in your day, Seth, if people got injected that they went in, but that's fairly common. So it's very true. So they have to look at if a rib is displaced, it means it could actually poke through the lining of the lung. And so that would make a more serious problem. I believe Aaron Rodgers had that kind of injury a couple years ago, and Rodgers doesn't wear the rib protectors. He doesn't like to wear it. And as you know, he went out with a similar injury, ironically enough, tonight.
Dr. Bruce, last question. Because we look at the game and we see a certain hit, and we worry about it. And the one I'm talking about is Jalen Hurts getting hit kind of from behind on the neck. How does a doctor look at that situation? What thoughts go through your mind when you see a hit like that?
Well, you always worry about a neck strain, or the most ominous, of course, which wasn't the case, which would be involvement of the spinal cord of the discs. And again, with Jalen running so much, I've listened to the whole show. You have to be concerned that when you go against the Titans with Mike Vrabel, they're gonna see what happened, and they're gonna frankly try to hurt him. And if he goes down, I think so does the season. So I think it's got to be a titration between, obviously he's an incredible runner. I mean, Randall Cunningham to me was in Michael Vick in the later years, but this guy is fast and elusive, And he's such a great weapon. You're just so tempted to use it over and over again. But I think eventually it could catch up to them.
Dr. Bruce Grossinger, our sports doc. Thanks for the information. Thanks for hanging out and staying up late with us. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a great night, everybody.
So we have game balls to give out. When we come back, we're going to give out game balls. Let's take a break. It is the Pond Lehocky Eagles postgame show. We're back after this.